First on CNBC, ahead of that 9:30 hearing, Senator Richard Shelby, ranking member of the Banking Committee. Senator Shelby, good to have you with us. It's also your birthday. You got a lot going on, and happy birthday from us.
Thank you.
This hearing today, too big to fail. I know you want to say there should be no such thing. What do you hope to get out of today's meeting?
Well, this will enliven the debate. In other words, the hearing in the Banking Committee is going to be well covered by the media, and there's going to be a lot of thoughts there. Maybe that things are too interconnected, or we let them grow too big. There's got to be a better way. Otherwise, you can't manage them. The regulators can't manage them because they're bigger than life.
What do you make of this Bank of America news today that they could need another $34 billion? Obviously, lots of ways to get there, including taking the money they have and putting it in a different form, sort of the accounting alchemy of the situation. Does this make you feel good, better, or worse than expected about that?
Well, it's disturbing, especially in view of what the chairman of Bank of America, Mr. Lewis, said just a few weeks ago, that they were adequately capitalized. They were ready to pay back the TARP money. I think they're not near that. The stress test will bring out some stuff that maybe people don't want to learn about, but we've got to find out what banks are in trouble and what aren't, and what do we do from here.
Well, what do you think the truth is? I mean, you don't want to use the L word for liar to call anybody particularly, but obviously, and these things in a sense could be subjective. But Ken Lewis has been very strident in saying he doesn't need more money. Now he's saying it's out of my hands. They can say we need more. I don't agree. I'll go out and get it. But I mean, is there a fact and fiction here?
Well, I think it depends on the perspective you're looking at things. Ken Lewis, he may have been looking at the regulation of the old days, whereas the stress tests are looking at a downturn perhaps in '09, the ability for banks to survive, and even into 10. In other words, some bad case scenarios, not necessarily the sun shining every day.
Is there going to be more legislation coming out of Congress, specifically about Wall Street and the banks? I mean, we've been so focused on some of the big pieces of legislation that have been considered over the past couple months. What's next?
Well, there will be legislation as we move on, and that is to relook and to redo the regulatory process of all of our financial institutions. We have to do this. We have to move into the 21st century. But the hearings today on Too Big to Fail, I think, is a step in the right direction, because Chairman Volcker, the former chairman of the Fed, he said some institutions are too big to exist because they're too interconnected.
Which is a fair point. And speaking of Bank of America, which is in the spotlight today, you are planning, I believe, in your committee to get to the bottom of that and bring in a voice that everybody wants to hear from. Hank Paulson.
Absolutely. We need to find out what's the truth, what happened dealing with the Merrill Lynch, Bank of America acquisition of Merrill Lynch, the role that Paulson played, the role that the chairman of the Fed played, but especially in light of the sworn testimony by Lewis to the Attorney General Cuomo of New York that he sent to us, where the SEC was left out of the loop. Somebody has either got different versions of what the events were, or somebody's not telling the truth. But, you know, this could border on perhaps security fraud.
Senator Mark Haynes,
yes, sir, Mark.
Back at the New York Stock Exchange. I'm curious, do you think there's enough evidence now of a recovery in the economy that we don't need another Main Street stimulus bill, or do you think we still need one?
Well, I hope we don't need one. You know, I was posed the big one before. You know, we were borrowing nearly $1 trillion, and some people say we're going to need one, but I think that it's counterproductive and it's putting another layer of debt on us. We'll have to wait and see what this economy looks like later in the year after the stimulus money is basically spent, or at least contract obligated for. So I think we're not out of the woods yet. Some people say that things have bottomed out, but I believe they'll be bottomed out when the real estate situation straightens up and when our banks have paid back the TARP money.
Senator Shelby, thanks from both of us.
Thank
we
you,
appreciate it. Senator Richard Shelby, as we said, on his way to the hearing on Too Big to Fail. Well, up next, we're going to head to the White House for some econ recon. Jared Bernstein going to talk about that. Those ADP numbers, Mark, way better than expected.